Today, we're diving into the allegorical journey of Don Sapiente, a man who truly believed that knowledge was everything. We're going to explore his incredible transformation from this cold, kind of arrogant intellectual to someone who discovers a much, much deeper truth about what it really means to be human. True human excellence resides in love, and not in the accumulation of data or dogmas. This single idea is the heart of our story. It's the lesson Don Sapiente is about to spend his whole life learning, the hard way. It's a journey that will take him from a fortress of pure reason to the open and, let's be honest, pretty messy field of human connection. All right, so who exactly was Don Sapiente before everything fell apart? Let's take a look. Let's step inside the tower of this brilliant thinker, a man so lost in his own head that he literally couldn't see the world right in front of him. At its core, this whole story is a battle between two selves. On one side, you've got the yo viejo, the old self. Think of him as cold, perfect, like a marble statue, a guy defined by what he already knows. And on the other side, there's the potential for the yo nuevo, the new self, something organic, growing, defined not by knowing, but by the humility of actually learning. And that's the path we're about to follow. You know, his entire life was this perfectly constructed bubble, and the details say it all. The flawless suit, the philosophical meals, he even had a car that could hold an academic debate. He lived in this world of perfect intellectual order, where the cosmic patterns on his tie mattered way more than the messy, vibrant reality of human life just outside his door. Well, you know how it goes. Perfect worlds are pretty fragile. And Don Sapiente's, it was about to be absolutely shattered by two massive failures that would strike at the very core of his identity. One was a crisis of the heart, and the other, a crisis of the mind. It was just a perfect storm, really. First, a major blow to the heart. His fiancée, whose name, ironically, is Esperanza, which means hope, leaves him for a convent. Ouch. Then, a huge wound to his pride. He arrogantly applies his theories to a farm, and it leads to a catastrophic and very, very public failure. In two swift blows, the man he thought he was is just completely undone. So the impeccable man in the perfect suit is forced to his knees in the actual mud. For the very first time, his perfect theories have collided with messy reality, and reality won, big time. His ego is completely destroyed, but it's right here in the dirt that his new self finally begins to take root. So, after a fall like that, what comes next? Well, for Don Sapiente, it was a necessary descent into the abyss. It was this period of wandering and confusion that wasn't just a breakdown, no. It was the beginning of a classic hero's journey inward. And this is his rock bottom. He clings to the one thing he thinks he has left, his intellect, and he takes his theories on the road. The only problem is, nobody cares. The world just isn't interested. His vast knowledge, once his greatest pride, now connects with no one. He's become a prophet with no followers, speaking a language nobody wants to hear. Now, during this whole crisis, he has one anchor, his friend, the pragmatic librarian Don Pancho. Pancho is the voice of common sense, and this quote captures him perfectly. He's the guy who's constantly reminding Sapiente that the ink of ideals is erased by the first rain of reality. A tough lesson, but a true one. Okay, so after the fall comes the rebirth, right? For Don Sapiente, this transformation begins in this beautiful, totally unexpected way, under cherry blossoms, of all things. And it leads him to a profound revelation, a concept the ancient Greeks called metanoia. So the first spark for his change is actually intellectual, but in a totally new way. He stumbles upon the work of Joseph Campbell on the hero's journey, and suddenly he sees a pattern in his own pain. His heartbreak, his public humiliation, they weren't just random tragedies. He realizes they were necessary trials on a hero's path. And that new perspective changes everything. And this brings us to this key concept, metanoia. It's so much more than just changing your mind. It's a complete reversal of your values, a deep spiritual reorientation. It's pretty much the death of the old self and the birth of the new. And this is exactly what Don Sapiente is going through. So he had the intellectual framework, right? But the final breakthrough, that was all about the heart. He meets Sakura, and her simple, joyful presence does what no philosophical argument ever could. Under these blooming cherry blossoms, his icy defenses they melt away. The cold fortress of his mind is finally breached by the warmth of human connection. He'd spent his whole life trying to think about everything, to analyze it all. But Sakura helps him realize that beauty isn't something to be thought about, it's to be loved. He finally gets it. Some things aren't meant for dissection, they're meant to be felt. He stops analyzing and, for the first time, he really starts living. So every hero's journey has to end with a return to the world, right? Where the hero brings back some piece of wisdom, an elixir. For the new Don Sapiente, this elixir wasn't some grand new theory. It was something far more humble and honestly way more profound. He doesn't write another book, he doesn't go on a lecture tour. Instead, he and Sakura open a soup kitchen. And this is the ultimate expression of his transformation. He calls it the wisdom of the soup, a warm, nourishing, tangible act of service that's worth more than all the abstract theories in his library combined. He actually calls his new worldview utopia pragmatic, or pragmatic utopia. The whole idea is that utopia isn't some far-off, perfect society you just dream about. It's something you do, right here, right now. It's the fusion of these high ideals with the humble, concrete reality of helping another person. He even develops a method for this work, and I think this is pretty cool. He borrows 3 principles from the martial art of Aikido. First, no resistance. Don't fight against the world's pain, accept it. Second, irami. Enter into that pain to help. And third, kokyu. Maintain your inner peace, your breath, so you can serve without being completely consumed by it all. It's a truly practical kind of spirituality. And in his own words, Don Sapiente basically summarizes his entire journey right here. He realizes the ideal person isn't the one who just thinks great thoughts, but the one who projects themselves into the world through action. He finally understands that utopia is not a place, it is an act of service. Don Sapiente's story really leaves us with a question, doesn't it? He traded his entire library for a ladle, all his theories for a simple bowl of soup. And it kind of forces us to look at our own lives and ask, where do we find true wisdom? Is it in the grand theories we hold in our heads, or in a simple act of service?